ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपः कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरोः श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च। श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगण रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सहगण ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च। हे कृष्ण करुणा सिन्धो दीनबन्धो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिकाकान्त राधाकान्त नमोऽस्तुते। तप्त काञ्चन गौरांगी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्तस्वामिन् इति नामिने। नमस्ते सरस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषशून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे। श्रीकृष्ण प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौरभक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। Hare Krishna. I welcome all the devotees to the 25th session of our ongoing series on Gajendra Stuti. We have covered up to text 17 last evening, and today we will take text 18. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 8, Chapter 3, entitled Gajendra's Prayers of Surrender, text 18. आत्मात्मजाप्तगृहवित्तजनेषु सक्तये दुष्प्रापणाय गुणसङ्गविवर्जिताय मुक्तात्मभिस्वहृदये परिभाविताय ज्ञानात्मने भगवते नम ईश्वराय। आत्मात्मजाप्तगृहवित्तजनेषु सक्तये दुष्प्रापणाय गुणसङ्गविवर्जिताय मुक्तात्मभिस्वहृदये परिभाविताय ज्ञानात्मने भगवते नम ईश्वराय। आत्मात्मजाप्तगृहवित्तजनेषु सक्तये दुष्प्रापणाय गुणसङ्गविवर्जिताय मुक्तात्मभिस्वहृदये परिभाविताय ज्ञानात्मने भगवते नम ईश्वराय। Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Translation. My Lord, those who are completely freed from material contamination always meditate upon you within the cores of their hearts. You are extremely difficult to attain for those like me who are too attached to mental concoction, home, relatives, friends, money, servants, and assistants. I repeat this line again. You are extremely difficult to attain for those like me who are too attached to mental concoction, home, relatives, friends, money, servants, and assistants. You are the Supreme Personality of Godhead, uncontaminated by the modes of nature. You are the reservoir of all enlightenment, the Supreme Controller. I therefore offer my respectful obeisances unto you. So in this verse, as we begin, the theme is important to know. The connection between the previous verse and this verse is as follows. In the previous verse, Gajendra has said, Madrik prapanna pashupasha vimokshanaya muktaya bhuri karunaya namo layaya swamshena sarvatanubhrit manasi pratita pratyak drishe bhagavate brihate namaste. That my Lord, pratyak drishe, you see everything. And swamshena sarva tanubhrit manasi pratita pratyak drishe. You are present in the heart of every living being as Paramatma, and at the same time you see everything. Pratyak Drishe Bhagavate as Bhagavan. Although you are Vibhu Atma, Brihat, like we know the word Brihat Bhagavatamrita by Srila Sanatana Goswami. Amrita, the nectarian glorification of Brihat Bhagavata or Brihat Bhagavan. The glories of Krishna, who is omnipresent, omniscient, omnipotent, but nectarian sweetness has been described by Sripad Sanatana Goswami, which Rup Goswami also through his Laghu Bhagavatamrita explains. So Gajendra is mentioning that Krishna, you are easily accessible to everyone in their hearts as Paramatma. But in this verse, Gajendra is making this point, then why are you not easily attainable for everyone? Well, in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna has said, Ishvara sarva bhutanam riddhesh arjuna tishtati, that I am seated in everyone's heart. He says, Sarvasya chaham riddhi sannivishtaha, I am seated in everyone's heart. Aham atma gudakesha sarva bhutashaya sthitaha, I am seated in everyone's heart. So again and again Krishna is talking about being seated in our heart region. Kathopanishad very famously describes about the two birds in the same branch. One is the bird, the Jivatma, who is eating the fruits of his activities, performing good activities and tasting sweet fruits as results, and sometimes performing bad activities and tasting the bitter fruits of his activities. And the other bird is the Paramatma. The first is the Jivatma, who is acting and experiencing. And the second is Paramatma, who is the overseer. Gatihi bharta prabhu sakshi nivasah sharanam sugrit prabhava pralaya sthanam nidhanam bijam avyayam. In the Bhagavad Gita again Krishna says, Sakshi, I am present as Paramatma seeing everything. So Gajendra is saying, yes Krishna, we accept that you are present in everyone's heart. But then why is it that we are having so much trouble finding you? Not everyone can find Krishna in their heart. It's very, very rare. Muktanam api siddhanam narayana parayana sudurlabha prashantatma kotishvapi mahamune. In the 6th canto of Bhagavatam it is described, out of millions and billions of jivas, one person realizes Krishna. Again in the 7th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Manushyanam sahasreshu kaschid yatati siddhaye yatatam api siddhanam kaschin mam veti tattvataha. That out of millions and billions of jivas, one realizes me. So why is it difficult, is the question. So this one verse answers why jivas in general don't find Krishna. Why do we run around finding the source of happiness while he is seated in the core of our hearts? The famous story of the musk fragrance coming from the musk deer. The deer runs through mountainous regions, runs through forests, trying to seek the source of that fragrance, that musk aroma, but then ends up dying out of fatigue. But it never realizes that actually that fragrance is coming from its own body. Similarly, Krishna is the source of all happiness, is the source of our existence, and he is in our hearts. And we are searching for him, but we are searching outside. We are searching for the sun in the west direction while the sun is busy rising in the east. It's like a grandfather playing with his grandson. He's playing all over the house, running. The grandson is running, the grandfather is running behind him, and finally he gets tired. And then he tells his grandson, I've been tired playing with you. Now I want to take some rest and read the newspaper. As he sits down on the couch to read the newspaper, he realizes, oops, I don't know where my reading glasses are. And he tells his grandson, can you help search? Because the grandfather gets up and he starts searching from one room to another and he fails in finding. Then he tells his grandson, can you help me? I played with you from room to room. Now can you help me find my reading glasses? I've been searching room to room. I don't find it. And the grandson laughs. And he says, oh, dear grandfather, it's on your forehead. The reading glasses that you're looking for is on top of your head. You have placed it ready to read. So then the grandfather laughs. It was so close and he couldn't see. And then he took it, wiped the glass, and he started reading. So that's how close happiness is. We just have to align ourselves to Krishna in the heart. But we spend lifetimes like the musk deer looking for the fragrance of happiness, which is actually coming from Paramatma inside. We search for that happiness lifetime after lifetime through different bodies, through different circumstances, through different relations, and through different sensual, emotional, financial, mental, physical sources of happiness. Sometimes it's just good food. Sometimes just change of climate. Sometimes it's just change of circumstance, going from one country to another. Change of jobs, getting more money. We are trying our best, but it's all temporary. The actual pleasure comes from within, where Krishna is seated. So here Gajendra is saying, although the living being is so closely situated to Paramatma, where Krishna is residing, why is it that the living being is not able to turn and tap into that source of happiness? So this is very, very interesting. All of us here, we are searching for Krishna, but that same Krishna, whom Katvanga Maharaj found in 24 minutes, whom Parikshit Maharaj found in 7 days, whom Dhruva Maharaj found in 6 months, whom Prahlad Maharaj found in 5 years. We have been spending so many years and so many lifetimes, we still haven't found that Krishna. Sometimes we are even proud that I've been a devotee longer than you, and I got initiated before you, and I joined Krishna consciousness before you. First question we ask, so when did you join? And when you know the person has joined after, the mind starts automatically taking a senior position to say, oh, I know better than him. It's my duty to guide him. It's my duty to train him. And this is all just the play of the false ego. Because if someone has flunked in their first grade for 10 years, will they be proud to say that, oh, I am senior to everyone in the class because you just came to first grade, but I've been in this grade for 10 years. Actually, it's a matter of shame that you've been 10 years in the first grade, but you still haven't passed, which means we have been so long in the movement, but we still haven't found Krishna. That Krishna who's so close to us, we've taken such a long time, and we are proud of it. When we see others who have been longer in the movement and in the process of bhakti, we should fall at their feet because they have been chanting the names, they have been chasing Krishna, they have been practicing this movement without deviation for such a long time. But when this thought comes to us, we tell ourselves that to find Krishna, Srila Prabhupada in one very famous class, in the form of a video, very famous devotee shared it many times. Prabhupada was asked, how long does it take to find Krishna and become Krishna conscious? Prabhupada widened his eyes, dilated his eyes and said, 1 moment. It just takes that 1 moment to turn towards Krishna and to decide, no more enjoyment of this world. I am searching for the right thing in the wrong direction. So here in this verse, Gajendra is trying to reorganize our whole orientation. He's trying to refocus us in the right direction. Atma, Atmaja, Apta, Griha, Vitta, Jana. He has mentioned 6 things. So we take the Sanskrit first. So the word Atma refers to the self in general usage. But in this context, the word Atma refers to either the mind or it refers to the body, more specifically the body. Because the word Atma can refer to mind, it can refer to the body, it can refer to Jivatma, it can refer to Paramatma, contextually used. But here it refers not to the soul or the super soul, it refers to the mind or the body, more specifically the body. Atma. Second is Atmaja. Ja means Janma. That which appears from the Atma, that which appears from the body. So the Atmaja or Atmaj refers to the expansions of our body in the form of children. You see, the word used is Atmatma Japta. So the third word is Apta. Apta means relatives. But before we go there, first word is Atma, which means the body. Second word is Atmaja, or it can mean Atmaja, both. Because the word used is Atmajapta. So whether it is Atmaja plus Apta or Atmaja plus Apta, it still comes to the same combination. So what that actually means is the word Atmaja refers to one's son, Atmaja refers to one's daughter. So first word is Atma, which means the body. Second word is Atmaja, which means that which appears from the body. In the male sense, the son, and if it is Atmaja, it refers to the daughter. So sons and daughters and grandsons and granddaughters, all of them included in Atmaja. Atmaja, Atmaja. Third word is Apta. The word Apta refers to relatives, especially very specifically those received after marriage. You see, we in Sanskrit or in Hindi or Marathi or in other languages also, we know the word prapta. Prapta means to obtain. So that is pra plus apta. Pra means in a very special way, and apta means relatives. So just like in a special way, which means through marriage, suddenly the relatives increase, because till now it's only my mother and my father and my brother and my sister. But now very quickly it becomes my wife and my wife's brother and sister, my wife's parents, and then their brothers and sisters and cousins, first cousins, etc. So in a very special way, apta, relatives come into one's life. So this is called prapta, to receive. When you say this was prapta in Sanskrit, it refers to, oh, this came to his life, which means he received it very immediately, as if in a wedding, through a marriage, how relatives expand. In that mood, very quickly, in no time, he received it. So that is the word prapta. Pra plus apta. Apta means relatives. So Atma means body, Atmaja means son, Atmaja means daughter or grandsons, granddaughters. Apta means relatives. And Griha means home. So, well, whether it is Apta or Griha, both refers to also wife also. It includes the wife, not refers, it includes the wife. Because Apta refers to relatives through marriage, and that means acceptance of one's wife. And the word Griha, which means home, a place is not called home just if one lives there. It is actually Grihini, one's wife, who completes the home. So without Grihini, the place is not called home. It could be called a house. It could be called an external construction of things put together. But for something to become Griha or home, a place of comfortable residence, there must be Grihini, which means wife. So Apta and Griha both includes one's spouse, and the word Vitta refers to wealth. Different kinds of properties, different kinds of investments, different kinds of savings, whether it's investment in land or gold, and etc., etc. All of these things, all forms of returns, economic, financial, beneficial returns, are all included in Vitta. And then the word is Jana. Jana refers to other servants and friends and well-wishers and colleagues and even pets these days. Things which are very dear to one's swajana, one's existence. Sometimes we see even devotees have some pet dogs and cats and sometimes birds also. So that was of course not Prabhupada's ideal standard. But anyway, with Kali Yuga we see newer and newer things come. So jana includes everything. So Gajendra is saying Atma, Atmaja, Apta, Griha, Vitta, Janeshu, Saktaihi. Sakta means asakta, attachment. So for those who are attached in their body or to their body, attached to their children, attached to their relatives, attached to the home, attached to the wealth, and attached to well-wishing friends and relatives and other servants and assistants and pets, Asakta. Sakta means asakta. Those who are deeply absorbed, always attentive and attracted and very attached to all of them. Gajendra gives a very bad news. He says, Dush prapanaya. Prapa means to attain. And he says, Dush. Du means difficult, almost impossible. So Gajendra is saying, Dush prapanaya. For those who are attached to any one of these 6 or 7 mentioned, or all of them put together to be more practical and relatable, experientially relatable, Gajendra has a bad news. He says, Dushprapanaya. He says, Krishna, you will not be attained by someone who's attached to all this. And actually, this is a fact. You see the word Atma referring to the body. Let's take it one by one. As far as the body is concerned, we have so much. To take care of the body is one thing, but to pamper the body is another. Now we see whether it's India or America, everywhere we see there is so much outlet for care and concern for the body. Like there are, restaurants for the body, there's food and entertainment, there's malls, the theaters, shops for the body, cosmetics, and, and nail spas and beauty salons, even for men, actually. Sometimes tattoos and sometimes more cosmetics and stylish earrings and hairdressing, coloring of the hair and different kinds of shoes, different kinds of perfumes, different kinds of dresses, different kinds of costumes and watches and gadgets and so much for the body. In fact, as soon as we step out of the house, everything is literally for the body. Prabhupada is so great that he, for the first time in the history of mankind in the Western world, he placed shops for the soul. Now, what do we need for the soul? For the soul, we need kantimala. For the soul, we need tilak. For the soul, we need bead bag. For the soul, we need calendars. We need pictures of Krishna. We need books. We need, different things to hear. And Prabhupada opened up a gift shop. Matchless gifts. You see, in all the temples, we see gift shop. And that whole gift shop is only for the soul. And even if it has some kurtas and dhotis for the body, ultimately that is to take the soul where it has to go. So Prabhupada introduced, even keeping aside delivering souls, conditioned souls, Prabhupada introduced, even from a business perspective, from a materialistic perspective, Prabhupada was such a innovator, out of the box completely. No one ever had imagined you can have a shop for the soul. In contrast to just having things for pampering the body and attracting, making the body more attractive. But Prabhupada gave kantimala, Prabhupada gave bead bag and beads and books and kurta and dhoti and sari and calendars and deities and attractive keychains. Even if there is some taste for having these things, let us have that with Krishna pictures or Hare Krishna written, or stickers with Hare Krishna Mahamantra that sometimes in India we see behind cars also devotees have Hare Krishna Mahamantra stuck. So that someone from behind, when they are, they are driving behind the vehicle, they can read, oh, this is a Hare Krishna vehicle. So indirect preaching. So this is interesting. But without that, generally, the attachment to the body is very high. Very high. So that is Atma. And to the extent we are attached to this body and absorbed in this body, that is how painful it gets to leave this body. Because in old age, when it's time to leave the body, the attachment to the body is so high that the jiva doesn't want to leave this body. He has enjoyed enough through this body. So at the time of death, when the time is up, and literally through the noose, the Yamadutas pull the soul out of this body, which has been a source of pampering and comfort and luxury and opulence. The soul has resistance. He has to leave the body, but he doesn't want to leave the body, and this resistance gives a lot of pain of departure. But for the devotees who are very absorbed, Atmanam Sarvato Rakshet, Prabhupada would time and again say, that the soul must be given priority. What is the use of cleaning the cage when the bird is fasting? Prabhupada would say. What is the use of filling gas and fuel in the car and maintaining it properly with proper car wash? But the driver of the car is not being fed roti and sabji. So he will die, but the car is attractive. This is what the civilization we are into. The soul is crying for happiness to get back to Krishna, but the body is being nourished. So therefore, anyway, those devotees who are very absorbed in serving the needs of the soul to get back to Krishna, they are very detached from the body. So when the time of death comes, they are wanting and dying and crying to get back to Krishna. So when the right time comes to leave, they welcome it with open arms, because now is the time not to leave the body, but actually to enter into the kingdom of Krishna. So therefore they are eagerly waiting, and hence there is no resistance and there's no pain of death. Or let's say there may be some because of the presence in the body, but it's way lesser as compared to the conditioned soul. So this is Atma, attachment and absorption in the body. Second is Atmaja, so absorption and attachment to children. Let's say in general it is there. Their school, their education, their exams, their peer pressure, what kind of friends do they have? Is it a private school? Is it a public school? How to fund for their school? And what kind of culture, what kind of words do they learn, what kind of slang and different kinds of connotations that they learn while being with the friends. And amidst being the city of crime, so many places, I hope there's no kidnapping, I hope there's no fight, I hope there's no swear words exchanged. And then as they grow up, I hope they get a good job, I hope they get a good package, I hope they fall in love with the right person, I hope they settle down. So this absorption is always there, this concern is always there. And not just for children, once they settle down, then their children. So it goes multi-level absorption and attachment. And then as far as relatives, the third thing Gajendra has mentioned, Apta, relatives. Whatever we receive, as we were mentioning, through marriage, naturally our relatives increase. So then now absorption goes into always possible, all relatives. One time my Guru Maharaj, Srila Guru Maharaj, was once in one home, and he was about to leave for a home program to another place. He had come to this place for prasadam, and then he was about to leave for the evening class. So he invited this family also. Would you plan to come in the evening for Hare Katha? So the family said, oh, actually, Maharaj, we would love to come, but our friends and relatives are coming home. So we will have to be at home. So Srila Guru Maharaj said, why don't you bring them also for the class? So they said, oh, I don't think they will be interested to come and hear about Krishna. So Srila Guru Maharaj asked them, you want to hear about Krishna, you've got this human form to hear about Krishna, you're convinced this is the time and the opportunity to hear about Krishna. And the person whom you call as your friend or as your relative is not interested in hearing about Krishna. They won't like when you go or you take them to the program. Srila Guru Maharaj with sympathy asked them, why do you still call them your relatives? Why do you still call them your friends when they're actually not friendly to your ultimate goal? So this is a fact. In so many ways, the Shastra has also shown how great souls have been very dedicated to Krishna. Whether it is Bali Maharaj having a difference of opinion with his guru as far as surrendering to Vamandev is concerned, whether it is Vibhishan having disagreement with his brother, Prahlad having disagreement with his father, Dhruva having disagreement with his mother, the gopis having disagreement with their husbands. Because wherever there was a resistance in serving Sri Hari, history has shown how mature devotees deal. But that doesn't mean we prematurely renounce as they have done. We have to deal with maturity, responsibility, and under the guidance of senior devotees who will guide us from time to time. But the underlying principle is that apart from our responsible relations in this world, those unnecessary extra relatives and extra friendship that we have made, without which we can actually live a very responsible life. If those things are taking away our time and energy and focus from Krishna, then it's time to introspect. What are they actually friendly to? Are they friends for us as far as souls, or are they friendly to our false ego, which wants to run away from Krishna? So our absorption is there in our relatives and friends. So that is Apta. And then Griha, that's the fourth thing Gajendra talks about. We all know how attached we can get to our house, not just to the house. I remember I went to one place, and there was a housewarming ceremony. This was somewhere in one of the invitations. And as I went there, it was a big house. And I was speaking to the devotee who had invited. I said, Prabhu, are you happy in this house? And he was unhappy. His daughter was also unhappy. And there are two different reasons why. So I asked him, Prabhu, are you happy with this house? You're moving into a big house. Are you happy? He said, yes, Prabhu, I'm happy. This is bigger than the previous house. But I'm sad, because I have a lot of memories stuck to the previous house. Every single corner of the previous house, we lived there for quite some time. So every corner of that house, every wall, every painting, it gives us, a lot of memories to remember. So even when we are moving into this house, we remember how the kitchen in the old house was, and how the car park was, and how the pictures. So that was one reason why he was unhappy. And I asked the daughter, "Are you happy?" And she was not at all happy. And I asked her why. I said, "This house is bigger than the previous house. Then why aren't you happy?" She said, "Because my friends have a bigger house than this. What is the use of having such a small house?" So there's one person who is happy, is not happy because of being attached to the previous house. The other person is not happy because of not being satisfied with the present house. So we have seen in our dealings also. So many old people, like for example, I know one uncle whom I met in America. He had come to his daughter's home. One of the travels I saw one uncle. He was the father of the Mataji and Prabhuji who had invited me. So he was here in America, originally from India. So he developed some health problems. So I was talking to him. He was in his late 70s. So he told me, I've told my daughter, I'm coming here only to keep her happy. Actually, if something goes wrong, I would like to die in my own house. I don't want to die in America. So I was interested. I started talking more. And then he said, ultimately, it's a matter of great pride to die in the house that we have built. We don't want to depend on anyone. We don't want to die helplessly in some hospital or somebody else's home. I don't want this burden that I died in somebody's home, whether it's my daughter or son-in-law. Ultimately, it's not my home, he was saying. Saying, I wish I can go back to the home, in my village. And I can die there. Even if death has to come, let it come in my home. So we see, our words oftentimes reflect our inner thoughts and our consciousness. So attachment to house is definitely one thing. Then Gajendra talks about vitta, which is wealth. And it's enough said about wealth. We already know enough about it, how attached we can get to wealth. And then, of course, jana, swajana, attachment to things that we have. It's not just our own body, but then the extensions of our body and so many other factors. Sometimes big persons have servants, personal assistants, or if not, at least pets, as we were mentioning. Apart from being, apart from being attached to nails and mustache and beard and fashion and style and gadgets, to add more misery, we have so many other things also. Like every morning we see, even now during Corona lockdown, sometimes you look outside the window and you see early in the morning at around 6:30, even up to 7 o'clock, the sun is just about to rise. It's towards the end of Brahma Muhurta. But we still see there are sometimes people found on the street who walk the dog, they feed the dog, they play with the dog, in fact even hug and kiss the dog and stool pick the dog. They even have pictures of their dogs on their phone, display picture or Facebook picture or WhatsApp picture, and all day, even at work and even at school, it's all about talking about dogs. My dog, your dog. Oh, this dog is cute. That dog is cute. This is what my dog eats. This is what your dog eats. In fact, I was reading an article about one man who has been serving his dog for quite some time, and he was proclaiming very happily that telling all of his friends that don't you think that my dog and I will look alike from the time I've been with my dog and I've been closely loving my dog. My face has started to look like my dog. So that shows our affections. Like he was proud about it. Like the transcendental version of it would be those who are worshipping Vishnu, automatically Prabhupada says they look effulgent, they look very bright, they look very beautiful, almost like Vishnu. When Prabhupada would go with his American and European boys and girls, sometimes people would be amazed. They would be amazed at their beauty and their effulgence and their purity. And Prabhupada would say, they're all men from Vaikuntha. They are serving Vishnu, Krishna, and this is why they are pure and very effulgent. So this is the point. Depending on whom we spend time with and what we are focused on, similarly our face cut also almost changes to suit our next birth. They are ready to become Vishnu Dutas, so their face is changing. So here Gajendra is saying, Atma Atmaja Apta Griha Vitta Janeshu Asaktaihi Dushprapanaya. The bad news is those who are attached to all of this, oh, it is very difficult to get Krishna. They will not get Krishna, Gajendra is saying. But then for all of us as Grihasthas, what is the hope? Well, there is hope. What is the hope? As far as Atma is concerned, body is concerned, we have to ask ourselves at every step, is this genuine taking care of the body, or is this pampering of the body? Can I live in a Krishna conscious way without it? Do I really need it? Because sometimes what we do is we take whatever we like and then we spin the Yukta Vairagya principle to say that, well, I am doing this to put it into Krishna's service. But we have to ask ourselves that are we Krishnizing our inner desires? Or is it the bare necessity being fulfilled? So is it really needed? Really, can't we do service without it? If we cannot do service without it, then we needing it is Krishna conscious. But if we can do service without it, but having it is making us happy, so to kind of reduce the guilt, we are Krishnizing it. So as far as Atma is concerned, body is concerned, we should make sure that we are not too much into flashy clothes and flashy cosmetics and very flashy entertainment, and keeping it very Krishna conscious. Atmaja. Now the second thing, the sons and daughters and grandsons and granddaughters, we should love them. We should be very affectionate to them. But we should always remember that we are affectionate to them because of the presence of the soul, and that soul belongs to Krishna. So we should always think that this is a gift given to me by Krishna. So by affectionately loving this child, I want to worship Krishna through this relationship. This must be remembered. But if that connection is lost, then it's very easy to be materially absorbed. A third, as far as Apta, relatives are concerned, the reason they're called relative is because it's not absolute, you see. What is absolute is not relative. What is relative is not absolute. So that which takes us to Krishna is absolute. If they're related to us and if they are either Krishna conscious or favorable to Krishna conscious, or at least sattvic, they will not stop us from serving Krishna, then there is no problem. But if there are those who are not Krishna conscious and they don't like us to be Krishna conscious, then we have nothing to do with them. Why should we waste our time? It's good to have a non-offensive, high-by relationship with them, with the bare minimum interaction, but to go hand in hand with such relatives, even after knowing that their consciousness is not very strongly aligned towards Krishna, is very detrimental to one's advancement. Now, the fourth is Griha. How can we Krishnaize our home? By having a home and having deities, having lots of pictures everywhere, loudly playing Prabhupada's kirtans and Prabhupada's japa and classes on speakers. And everywhere we keep something Krishna conscious. Like, for example, this room that I'm sitting in, just opposite to me, there's a very beautiful picture of Radha Madan Mohan here. And to the left, there is a picture of Krishna with the gopis playing the flute on the moonlit night of Sharad Purnima. And then next to that is Krishna sitting and speaking to Srimati Radharani in the forest groves of Vrindavan. And on the table there is Chaitanya Charitamrita book. And behind me, there is a Mukundamala Stotra book. And on the chair, there is a dhoti and a kurta. So everywhere we look, although this is a home, this is a griha, but there's so many opportunities to remember Krishna. So in this way, even if we have a home, it's not wrong to have children, to have a home, to have a material body, to have wealth, to have people around. But we must constantly be absorbed. If that is not happening, we are going wrong. We are winning the battle but losing the war. If we are having a lot of people around, they're always liking us. We're sitting and eating popcorn and Coke with them and watching a movie on the couch. Or they all love us for having a home. But we are winning the little battle but losing the ultimate war of reaching our goal to the lotus feet of Krishna. It is better to walk alone on the right path than to walk with a group on the wrong path. Might is not always right, as the saying goes. So a home can be Krishnized by every single thing. His Grace Vaisheshika Prabhu very famously says that how do we know, how do we purify the house? He said all the different things that we have in our home, many of them are unnecessary. So he would say that every month we should make it a point to keep one unnecessary product of our house outside the house. Because you see, we have big homes and then so many rooms, and every room, now it's not nice to just keep it vacant. So you have to buy things to fill it up. And then when you buy those things, you have to maintain them. And then if they break, then there's repair. And then there's replacement also after a few years. And now when it gets dusty and dirty, then we need someone to clean it up because we don't have time. We need someone to clean it up. So overall, it comes with a package. It comes in as a needle, but out as a plow. So we have to try our best to make it as minimum as possible. So Vaisheshika Prabhu says that every month, keep one thing out of the house that we don't need. We analyze the whole month and we see, oh, this one thing has been in my house for a long time and I don't think I'm using it. It's occupying space. Let me Krishnaize the home by taking this thing out and replacing something Krishna conscious there. Having more Krishna conscious books, having more Krishna conscious pictures, having classes and kirtans going on is the way to have the home. But to just have movies and cricket and sports and unnecessary political news, whatever news has to come, it will come. It will reach our ears. Whatever minimum is needed, we will get to know. There's no need to submerge ourselves in unnecessary gossip. We are running short of time. The snake of death is hissing into our ear. It's just 1 minute away from grabbing and strangulating our neck. So it's a high emergent situation. And there is no way we can expand our empire in this world, and then also go back home, back to God. We're going to be like a silkworm making a cocoon and then get stuck in that same cocoon. But a great devotee, he's like a spider. He will make a web, but he will not be trapped in there. That is an ideal grihastha. He will have a spider web, but like the spider, he can walk out also. But generally, it's difficult to do that. So Gajendra is saying, griha, then vitta, wealth. How do we spiritualize that? We spiritualize our wealth by giving in charity, regularly giving in charity. If wealth is sitting in our account for quite some time, then it gets stale. Just like water in a well is stale, but water when it keeps flowing in a river, then it's pure. Similarly, knowledge in one place goes stale. We learn more and it's more purifying when it is being taught. So when there is a river flow of knowledge, where there's a river flow of water, and when there's a river flow of wealth, there's an incoming wealth, incoming water, incoming knowledge, and there's outgoing wealth in the form of charity, outgoing knowledge in the form of teaching, outgoing water in the form of a river. So these three things must be flowing so that they don't go stale. Also, as far as vitta is concerned, sometimes we may pick a bigger job, a higher pay, and then we will get absorbed there. So we have to pick what is, we can be penny wise and pound foolish. We're making more money, but to make that more money, we are putting more of our time 12, 15 hours a day sometimes. And then that money, so we are basically making the money and giving away our health and youth. And then when we lose our health, we need that same money that we have gained to put it out in the hospital, and then we lose our life in old age, where money that we have gained is lost, time that we have gained is lost, and then we have lost the human form also. So we have to. I know some devotees, although they have a chance to get promoted in the same company, or they have better opportunities in other companies with probably even double the pay, they stick in the place where they are in the same position, even if that means they don't get a promoted hike in package or in the hierarchy of the organization. They still stick there. Why? Because that gives them more time for Krishna conscious absorption and preaching and chanting. So we must always learn to pick time and Krishna conscious favorable circumstance. What is more favorable than just making more money? And jhana, of course, we discussed this. So in this way, Gajendra says these 6 or 7 things, those who are absorbed, they cannot see Krishna in the form of Paramatma, and they are absorbed outward. Now we of course didn't belittle the situation. We also discussed the Krishna conscious perspective, how to Krishnize all of that. This is why traditionally we see most of them who wanted to get Krishna, they would remain celibate. They would not get into a married proposal. They would not get into an expansive network of relationships in this world, whether it's the 4 Kumaras, whether it is Narada Muni, and so many of them, and the sons of Daksha Prajapati, so many of them. But on the other hand, we see personalities like Dhruva Maharaj and Prahlad Maharaj. They entered Grihastha life and they led from the front. So it's not that the Grihastha life is belittled here by Gajendra, but absorption and attachment in the Grihastha life, where it is more than absorption and attachment to Krishna, that is to be condemned. When we are absorbed in Grihastha life, keeping Krishna in the center, which means we are cooking, we have to eat, but we are offering. We are constantly hearing. Even when we are bathing in the bathroom, we have a speaker there, or we are hearing some class or some kirtan. Even when we have to brush our teeth, or we are bathing, or we are putting tilak all our body, it takes about 20-30 minutes. So we have kirtan going on, class going on. Even when we get dressed up, we are doing seva to our deities, or we are honoring prasadam. We don't want to waste any moment. So even at that time we are hearing. So is that materially absorption? Is that material absorption? Absolutely not. Eating by default may not be material absorption. If we are eating and so absorbed in eating with our friends and talking gossip, then it's utter waste of time. But we are offering it to Krishna, and we accept Mahaprasad, and even at that time we are hearing Hare Katha and we are honoring Prasad. That is very, very fruitful. I remember in Radha Ras Bihari temple, as I used to go in the late 90s, we were growing up there and we would honor Prasadam in the Prasadam hall. As devotees would line up and honor Prasadam, there used to be one Vaishnav sitting there and reading Chaitanya Charitamrita, so that those who are honoring Prasadam, they can just hear this narration of Chaitanya Charitamrita and accept Mahaprasad. But still, we would see, we all would sit there and Chaitanya Charitamrita narration is going on. Such a Krishna conscious environment. Still, we would sit there and we would talk and chat. And then there used to be another Vaishnav sitting there to make sure that no one talks because it's supposed to be a Krishna conscious practice of honoring prasadam. So in this way, whatever situation we are in, the situation is abominable and supposed to be condemned if it takes us away from Krishna. So if someone is celibate but is not able to think of Krishna and is always thinking, I wish I was married, I wish I had children, I wish I had a home of my own, then it is better he situates himself in a situation where he can naturally be Krishna conscious. So it's not one ashram over another, but it is the absorption whether or not to remember Krishna. So this is what we are discussing. Atmatma japta griha vitta janeshu saktaihi dushprapanaya. It is difficult to get Krishna, dushprapanaya. Why it is difficult? Guna sanga vivarjitaya. Guna means rajas, sattva, rajas and tamas, and sanga means to associate, and vivarjita, without. So Krishna is beyond the association of sattva, rajas, and tamas. So, which means if we keep ourselves in the connection of guna sangha, which means sattva, rajas, tamas, then we cannot get Krishna, because Krishna is beyond sattva, rajas, and tamas. Like, for example, even coming back to the ISKCON Radha Rasbihari, ISKCON Juhu temple, Mumbai example, opposite the temple, we have so many buildings and so many people live there with crores and crores of rupees, because in Mumbai it's a very Juhu is a very posh area, very upmarket society, just opposite the ISKCON temple, the Radha Rasbihari temple. But sometimes we see that for Janmashtami, devotees line up overnight and they drive from long distance and they take the train and sometimes even through bus. And sometimes we see devotees walking. They take the bus, they get off the bus station and the bus stop, and it's raining sometimes, and they're having their umbrella and they're having dhoti and kurta and chanting bead bag in one hand and holding the umbrella with another and still walking to come and take darshan of Radha Rasbihari. But sometimes people around the temple, they are not to be seen in the temple. On the other hand, nearby theater, a movie theater next to the temple, there's a big line to get in there. So if we have guna sangha, which means we have absorption in sattva, rajas, and tamas, especially rajas and tamas, then vivarjitaya, we will not get Krishna, because Krishna is beyond that. So those devotees who live far away, they value the darshan of Krishna on the day of Janmashtami or Radhashtami or any day for that matter for Mangalarti. But people very close by, Malaye bhilla purandri chandana taru kashtamindanam cha kurute. The lady, tribal lady who lives on top of the mountain with sandalwood trees, when she feels cold and she needs a bonfire, she'll just cut a couple of trees, sandalwood trees, and make bonfire out of it. So she doesn't realize the value of the sandalwood. Why? Because it's in abundance. But someone who doesn't know the value, someone who knows the value, he will keep every piece of sandalwood because he knows how much it's worth. So when something is given in abundance, familiarity always breeds contempt. So when we are in the mode of sattva or rajas or tamas, especially rajas or tamas, it is very difficult to get Krishna. It's impossible. So here Gajendra is saying, Dushprapanaya gunasanga vivarjitaya. Krishna, you are outside the realm of sattva, rajas, and tamas, and hence it is not possible to realize you when we absorb ourselves in sattva, rajas, or tamas. Acha. Now, whom are you accessible to? Now here Gajendra in the next two lines is flipping over to making the sad story happy. He says, who is that person who can catch you in their life? Gajendra says, Muktatmavihi. Mukta Atmavihi. Those who are free from attachment to the above mentioned things. What do? Muktatmavihi Swahridaye. Swahridaye means in their own heart, in their own mind. What do? Paribhavitaya. Paribhavitaya means to remember with love and absorption, with affection. Like in the Bhagavatam, it is described in another place in the 3rd canto. Tvam bhakti yoga paribhavita ritsaroja ase srutekshita patho nanunatha pumsam yad yad dhiyata urugaya vibhavayanti tat tat vapu pranayase sad anugrahaya. The Bhagavatam describes Tvam bhakti yoga paribhavita. See, the same word paribhavita has been used. Muktatmadhi swaridaye paribhavitaye. That same word has been used in this verse. Tvam bhakti yoga paribhavita ritsaroja. That, my Lord, those devotees who remember you and hear about you repeatedly, their heart becomes cleansed and they lovingly remember you. Paribhavita. What do? You take your seat on the lotus of their heart. So beautifully described. And in what form do you sit? Yadyad dhiya utta urugaya vibhavayanti. Whatever form they remember you, O my Lord, tat tat vapu pranayase sadanugrahaya. That is the form you sit in. So for example, Hanuman remembers Ramachandra, you sit on the lotus of Hanuman's heart in the form of Ram. Why? Paribhavita, because he is remembering with affection and love. Ritsaroja. So if Mother Yashoda is thinking of Krishna as baby, Krishna in the form of the baby sits on the lotus of Mother Yashoda's heart. Because Paribhavita, He is remembering with love and affection. Similarly, in the heart of Radharani, it is Shyama Sundara Shikhanda Shekhara Smerahasa Murali Manohara Radhika Rasika Mam Kripanidhe Swapriya Charana Kinkarim Kuru Prananatha Vrushabhanu Nandini Shri Mukhabjara Salolu Shatpada Radhika Patatale Kritastitim Tvam Bhajami Rasikendra Shekhara. It is in the form of a Nava Yauvanamcha with a flute and peacock feather and threefold bending form in the complexion of a rain-filled monsoon cloud. So, yat dhyata urugaya vibhavayanti tat tat vapu pranayase sad anugrahaya. So, basically, I mentioned this reference because in the third canto, the same verse, at this verse, it has the same word, paribhavita. So here, paribhavita refers to remembering with affection and love. So muktatma bhi, those who are free from the attachment to the above mentioned things, swahridaye, in their heart, in their mind, paribhavitaya, they remember with love and attachment. So how do we know in whose heart Krishna is sitting? You see, Krishna as Paramatma, he is there in everyone's heart. But this verse says those who remember him, Krishna sits in the lotus of their heart. So how do we know in whose heart Krishna is sitting? Who has awakened? Who has tapped the presence of Krishna in the heart? Well, those personalities will have a certain set of qualities. By looking at those qualities, we will know whether the Paramatma is dormant or whether the Paramatma is awakened. Whether he has tapped the presence of Krishna in the lotus of his heart, in the seat of his heart. So how do we know? Ordinary people are generally selfish. They want to first look for themselves. But someone in whose heart Krishna has been awakened, they are selfless. They always think about others first. And then they think about themselves. Second, those who are ordinary persons, they're very absorbed for their own body. Just like we were previously mentioning, they have so much attraction to matching clothes and shoes and watches and cosmetics and scents and perfumes and latest gel and latest, all of these things. But those in whose heart Krishna is sitting, or in the lotus of whose meditation Krishna has been awakened, they have no attraction to all this. They will have very simple, bhalo na khaibe ara bhalo na paribe, gramme katha na shunibe ara gramme katha na bolibe. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, while speaking to Raghunath Das Goswami, he said, this should be the qualities of someone in whose heart Krishna has been awakened. That they don't eat very opulent food and they don't dress very opulently. Also, we see ordinary people, they have so much pomp and enthusiasm and excitement about celebrating their birthday and their anniversaries. But someone in whose heart Krishna has been awakened, instead of celebrating his own birthday and enjoying his own food, he is very interested in celebrating the appearance of Krishna, the appearance of the Acharyas. He will make a big celebration for Krishna, but nothing for himself. Like, for example, Sanatan Goswami, you see, one day when he was laying down on the banks of Pavan Sarovar, on the cold sand of Pavan Sarovar at night, Sanatan Goswami was so tired. He had walked around Govardhan, he had done Madhukaris, chanting the holy name, writing the Shastras. He was very tired. So he was resting on the cold sand on the banks of Pavan Sarovar. At that time, Krishna himself came and he massaged the lotus feet of Sanatan Goswami and he pressed the lotus feet, and Sanatan Goswami felt ecstatic symptoms. And Krishna asked Sanatan Goswami, why do you live like this? It pains my heart. Why do you live like this? Without any personal comfort, neglecting your own eating and living and clothing, you are so busy in your schedule serving me. You don't even have a place to reside. But for me, you have made such a big Madan Mohan temple. Oh Sanatan, I am completely sold out at your lotus feet. And this is why I am serving. And before Sanatan Goswami realized, Krishna vanished. So these are the qualities of those in whose heart Krishna has been awakened, in whose lotus-like heart Krishna is sitting. Premanjana churita bhakti vilochanena santas sadaiva hridayeshu vilokayanti yam shama sundaram achintya guna swarupam govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami. So, Premanjana churita, those who have prem in their heart, Churita bhakti vilochanena, those whose eyes are anointed with love, affection. What happens? Santaha, those great souls, hridayeshu vilokayanti. They see in the lotus of their heart, of their consciousness, yam shama sundaram achintya gunaswarupam, the form of inconceivable beauty, shama sundar, they see in their consciousness. So this is what Brahma Samhita mentions. So those who are free from material enjoyment, muktatma bhi swaridaye paribhavitaye, those who are free from such attachment to this world and are very absorbed in Krishna, Krishna appears in their heart. They realize Krishna. So this is why it is a must that we hear about the life of acharyas who led their life, who lived and died for Krishna, so that we take inspiration that this is the path we have to walk on to get the result that they got. If we walk on the path that we want, we will not get the result that they got. But for us to get Krishna, we have to walk the path of great souls. Mahajanayena gatasya pantha. So this form, now in the last line, jnanatmane, this form that is invoked in the heart, this word jnanatmane, of course, actually has two meanings. The first meaning of jnanatmane is that this form of Krishna, Atma, that appears in the heart, it is not mental speculation, which means it is not something that the devotee is imagining. Jnana Atmane. Jnana, which means this is actually truth. This is knowledge. This is the absolute reality that this form exists in the consciousness. It's not that because the devotee is imagining, it is actually a form that the mind has taken. Yes, it is a very, very important point. Because mind actually imagines. Bhumi apaha anala vayu kham mana buddhir evacha ahankar iti yamme bhinna prakriti rashtada. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita that kham mana buddhir evacha. Mana or mind is bhinna prakriti rashtada, is material. Mind is not spiritual. Mind is not chit, chinmay. It is jada. It is material. So whatever we think with the mind is also material. It is not spiritual. We try to imagine different things. So it is basically the mind which is taking different shapes. When we are sleeping at night, we see so many different pictures and we see so many different images and circumstances. It's actually the mind throwing all these images, because the mind takes on the forms that we think about. And because the mind is material, all the thoughts that we have with the mind are either sattva, rajas, or tamas. So the question is, those who remember Krishna in their mind, is that form, that Krishna appears in the form, is that also material? Gajendra says, no, jnanatmane, that is completely spiritual. Acha. How do we know this? Well, again, coming back to the pastime where Krishna enters the mind of Vasudeva, the Bhagavatam describes that when Krishna entered the mind of Vasudeva, Vasudeva became so effulgent. When Krishna entered, as Ram entered the womb of Kaushalya, she became so effulgent. When Chaitanya Mahaprabhu entered the womb of Mother Shachi, she became so effulgent. Bhagavatam now interestingly mentions Krishna entered the mind of Vasudeva. So it was not Vasudeva imagining, but by the love and affection of Vasudeva, Krishna actually entered. And when Krishna entered, the whole body of Vasudeva was effulgent. It was electrocuted with spiritual presence. And then Vasudeva passed Krishna to the mind of Devaki. That time Bhagavatam describes Vasudeva immediately became dull because Krishna had left. And now Devaki became effulgent. So it is not imagination. Because if Vasudeva had become dull, he can again imagine Krishna and again become effulgent. But it was actually Krishna who had entered and Krishna who had left. So his body had become effulgent, then it became dull, and Devaki Rani's body became effulgent. So this is actually Tai Bhavita Rupam. Sridhar Swami says it is actually Krishna entering. It is not the mind imagining. Also, Shukdev Goswami makes this point, same point, in the pastime of Dhruva Maharaj. He says Vishnu appeared there to Dhruva Maharaj in Madhuvan. Why? Didrikshaya, because he wanted to see Dhruva. So Dhruva was seeing Krishna in his heart, right? So it was not an imagination. Krishna had actually entered his consciousness. Now, this is why Dhruva had closed his eyes and he was just like a person watches TV, Dhruva was watching the beautiful form of the Supreme Lord who had entered his consciousness. Now this Lord came outside. Maitreya Muni describes that this form, Didrikshaya, the same Lord came externally to see Dhruva, his devotee, being absorbed internally, seeing the form that the Supreme Lord had entered. That form, Dhruva being absorbed, this the Supreme Lord wanted to see from external perspective. But he knew Dhruva won't open his eyes because he's absorbed in my avatar. So now the Supreme Lord disappeared from his consciousness. So Dhruva opened his eyes and he saw the Lord. So if the Supreme Lord had disappeared, Dhruva could have imagined again, because he was in meditation for 6 months, undeterred. So he could have just imagined again and then got the Lord back. But it was the Lord entering and the Lord exiting. So Dhruva opened his eyes, and when he saw that same Lord, Maitreya Muni describes, Dhruva wanted to embrace the Supreme Lord. He wanted to hug and kiss and hear and speak and see the Lord with all his senses. Yontah pravishya mama vacham imam prasuttam sanjeeva yatyakila shakti dharasva dhamna anyamscha hasta charana shravana twag adin pranan namo bhagavate purushaya tubhyam. Dhruva Maharaj in Canto 4, Chapter 9, Text 6 mentions, my Lord, till now my senses were all sleeping and dead, but now when you entered my consciousness, it seems as if now they have become alive. Also we see in the pastime of Narada Muni, same thing. Narad Muni was a child. In his the story of Narad Muni that's described in the Bhagavatam, in the first canto, that Narad Muni as a child, after he lost his parents, he was running helter-skelter and he became restless. But when did he become more restless? The Supreme Lord appeared and then disappeared. If it was just a concoction of the mind, Narad Muni could have again mentally reconstructed the whole form. And then there's no question of being restless. He could have pacified himself like that. But it was actually the Lord appearing and disappearing. So this Jnanatmane means Gajendra is saying, my Lord, your descent into the heart of the Jiva who is remembering you is not mental concoction, but it is Jnana Atmane. It is actually filled with knowledge. It is the true descent. So first class is when the Lord is so impressed with the devotee that he actually enters the consciousness of the devotee. So the consciousness actually becomes Krishna conscious. This is first class. And the body of the devotee becomes completely transcendental. At least second level is mentally to construct and think repeatedly. That we can at least try. We can think of remembering the deities. Try to think of the different pictures that we are seeing and the dham that we are seeing and the syllables of the holy name that we are seeing. And thinking of our spiritual master. At least this we can do. And the worst is to think of this world. There is no gain. So this is why in the Damodara Ashtakam it is said, Varam deva moksham na mokshavadim va na chanyam vrineham vare sadapiha idam te vapunatha gopala balam Sada me manasya virastham kimanyai. Satyavrat Muni is saying, Idam te vapuhu, this form of yours, Natha, O Lord, Gopala Balam, as baby Gopal, Sada me manasi, always in my consciousness, Sada me manasi avir, let it appear, astham kimanyai, what other desire can any sane person ask for? Again in the next verse he repeats the same thing. Idam te mukham bhojam atyanta neele vritam kuntalai snigdha raktaishcha gopya muhushchumbitam bimba raktadharam me manasya virasthamalam lakshalabhe. This form where Mother Yashoda is kissing you, O baby Krishna, manasyavir, may it appear in my heart. So this is the best darshan to have in the heart. First class. And second, at least mentally to think, mentally construct. And third class is just to think things of this world. So therefore, in this way, Gajendra calls the Supreme Lord as Jnanatmane. Your Atma, your form is Jnana Roop, Jnana Ghana Roop. It is a truth. It is not some construction of the mind. You actually appear and sit on the seat of the devotee who is remembering you. Now, the word Jnanatmane also has a second meaning, but that we will discuss tomorrow. And then after that, Jnanatmane Bhagavate Nama Ishwaraya. These terms we will discuss tomorrow with the next verse. Thank you so much, dear devotees, for kindly joining in. Please let us meet tomorrow and continue our discussion going from 7 to 8, again, Eastern Standard Time, to have session 26 of the Gajendra Stuti of the 8th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gajendra Stuti ki jai, Grantraj Bhagavatam ki jai, Gaur Premanande Hari.